Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Fluffy Temper. Welcome to Like Fluffy TV. Today we're working our way through the Dungeon Meister's cookbook. We're going to be making the picked pockets, which was a super fun recipe to make. What you didn't see me do off camera was take 1 cup of warm water, and then I added that to my packet of active dry yeast and set it to the side so the yeast could wake up. The original recipe does call for 1 cup of room temperature whole milk. I don't have whole milk in my house. I do have powdered milk, so I'll add the powdered milk as an extra step to give me the same flavor. And into a large bowl, we are going to add 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 1 large egg, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. And then I'll mix that all in with the yeast. And then I'm going to knead it for a while until everything is nice and soft and smooth. When you first start kneading dough, it is a little, this one was wet. I had to stop and answer the phone. There's a good chance I messed up somewhere with my liquids. It's also very humid here today, which could also account for how wet my dough was. So I'm just adding flour until it's not sticking to me anymore. And then once this dough is no longer sticking to me and is nice and smooth, it almost looks and feels like a balloon that you're blowing up. That's when you know you're done. And I always find this so relaxing. What this is doing is introducing little glutens to other little glutens until they're buddies and hold on to each other. This is what gives your bread those nice crumbs that everybody's talking about in those holes once the bread rises. Now that I'm done kneading my dough, I am going to add some oil to my large bowl and plop this dough in for about an hour until it's doubled in size. It may take less time or more, depending on where you live, what the humidity is like outside, and what your dough feels like doing. The important part is to wait until it doubles. If you have difficulty with doughs rising, you can stick a hot bowl or dish of hot water in your oven. And while you're kneading the dough, you can turn your oven on to 200 degrees. When you're done kneading, turn it off. Put the dough in. It makes a nice, steamy, humid environment. Silly dog. So if you have trouble, hot water in the oven, in a bowl. Put your bread in there to rise. Just make sure the oven's actually off. It's the steam and the hot water that's keeping it warm enough to let it rise. Now, while my dough is rising, we are going to add the ingredients. I've got a large yellow onion, a pound of ground beef, and I'm going to put these in a pan and saute them up until everything's cooked, because nothing's going to cook once I add this to the dough. Now that my beef and onions are done, I'm going to add 3 cups of shredded cabbage. Adding the cabbage last, well, along with some cumin, salt, and pepper. Because the cabbage doesn't take very long, we just want it to be sad and wilty. Our dough doubled in size. I'm going to punch it down and then separate it into some balls on a flour dusted surface so nothing sticks. I ended up with 10 balls of dough. I'm going to use a rolling pin and flatten them out a bit. And then I'm going to add my cooled down filling. Make sure it's cool. If your filling's hot, your dough gets wet and then you end up with a soupy mess. So cooling down your fillings, whatever fillings you decide to put in, is imperative. I stick the filling in the middle, pull all the edges together, give the bottom a little twist to make sure it sticks, and then put it pretty side up on my pan. The recipe did say that you can put any kind of fillings you wanted in here. So you could try, some pie fillings, canned or made yourself. It's up to you. You could throw in jellies. You could throw in pizza ingredients. A nice mozzarella, I think, would be really nice in these, with a butter on top with some garlic salt. I'm making myself hungry. These particular fillings with this dough the way it is, my friends and I were not a fan of. The dough was a little sweet, and none of us are fans of cabbage, but I always like to make the recipe as written the first time, just so I know what I'm working with. So I think if I was going to make another savory dish with these, I would either leave out the 1/4 cup of sugar, or I would drop it down to a tablespoon max. And if I was making a sweeter filling, I would go ahead and add the full 1/4 cup. So I'm going to leave these to sit for about another hour until they rise up again on me. We should be doubling in size again. And everything looks like it's going splendidly. I am very excited to make these again, either savory without the sugar or with the sugar and do something sweet. I can imagine that apples would taste really good in here. You take the apples and brown sugar and some cinnamon and mix it up and shove them inside. I think that would be absolutely delicious. Maybe some cream cheese and cherry pie filling, and then cover the top in butter and cinnamon and sugar. There they are, straight out of the oven. They're a beautiful golden brown. After we brush the tops with some milk, they smelled good, they look good. The recipe came out perfectly. Can't wait to try them again, just with different fillings. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.